Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Shovel, and I am here in Modern Warfare 3, and this is not going to be a gameplay, this is going to be a continuation of the How to Get a Moab Easily guide. This is going to be part 2, and I wanted to make this video because I've gotten some questions, I've gotten some concerns about the class setup that I did first time, and I wanted to make a video about it because it's kind of hard to really get into some of the finer details of it in just a short comment, and so I wanted to make this just to kind of go into it. Now, I am here in the class setup, and this is the class that I made last time. Now, the few points that were raised up, and before I really get into anything, I just want to mention that this is just my opinion on a class that I've enjoyed and that some of my friends have had success with, so I'm not putting Specialist down. I still enjoy it, it's still awesome, but I find that Specialist improves your ability to kill, but at least in my experiences, it hasn't really improved your survivability very much, which is what the ballistic vests do. So, with that out of the way, I want to talk about some of the things that were being discussed in the comments. Now, first off, people were talking about the first perk, and whether it should be Sleight of Hand or Scavenger, and what the perks to each one of these were. But before I get into that, because the two biggest discussed things are kind of together, was the primary weapon that I suggested was the MP7, and whether or not to use rapid fire or extended mags, and what the differences were between them. Now, this is probably the thing that was brought up the most by people, so I really want to get this one out of the way quickly, and I want to share my feedback on what I think about it. Now, I'm aware that rapid fire affects weapons differently, that they don't all gain the same amount, and that the MP7 doesn't gain very much at all. I think it's only 11%, or it might be 11.2, but it's right around 11, unlike the PP90M1, which I think gains above 30. It's like 32% or something like that. So it's not a big jump for the MP7, so people have been saying that it's better with extended mags. And to an extent I do agree with this, because extended mags is going to eliminate the need to reload, but this also goes hand in hand with the perk choices, surprisingly, because if you like rapid fire and you enjoy the slightly increased damage, then really the best thing that you can do is to stick with Sleight of Hand Pro, because when you run rapid fire, you're going to run your clips dry quicker, and you're going to run out of ammo on your primary weapon faster. So if you face off a big group and you need more than just your clip, now you're going to be able to reload faster, you're going to be able to switch to your secondary or pick up another gun. So it really creates a firm base on what to do in panic situations. You can always reload if you have more bullets, you can always switch to your secondary, and you do it fast. But with extended mags with this, the problem is that extended mags really increases the magazine size by quite a bit, so it kind of eliminates the need to reload as often. When you run into those groups, you're going to find you don't often have to reload halfway through a group, because you're going to be able to kill everyone before you have to reload. So it kind of eliminates the need for Sleight of Hand Pro. So if you're going to change your attachment from rapid fire to extended mags, then I would suggest changing to Scavenger. Now, there is a reason for this, because if you do not have Sleight of Hand Pro, then you're going to find that you're going to have trouble switching weapons if you need to, and switching to different weapons. You're not going to have the luxury of reloading quickly in that, so you're probably going to want to stick with the weapon you have, because if you have to pick up another one, and it doesn't have extended mags on it, then you're back in the same boat. So I would suggest Scavenger, because then you can keep the weapon with extended mags and you don't need to worry about that reloading problem. So I would say Scavenger Pro with extended mags and Sleight of Hand Pro with rapid fire. Now this does work for, in my opinion, all the submachine guns, so you shouldn't run into too much trouble with any submachine guns. Now for assault rifles, people were talking about why not 2 attachments and use something else. Now, the reason for this is because out of all of these, extended mags might be nice to add on, but for me, I'm using it as more of a ranged weapon now because I'd only use it on longer range maps. So I always like the silencer, but I don't really favor this so much because I only like extended mags in close range combat where you have to kill a large group. If everything's at long range, you have time to duck behind and reload. So I do favor Scavenger also more with the assault rifles because you have more time if things are at more of a range. And the only other one that might come in handy would be the heartbeat sensor, but that kind of is doubled up by your portable radar. They have pretty much the same use, so I really do think that just the silencer is really what you want. You could use impact if that's something you like, but because it's ranged, I like the extra stability that kick adds, and I enjoy the silencer as well. So that is on the primary weapons. Now I got a couple comments on secondary weapons, and I said that I was going for more of like a stealth-based Moab, that you aren't going to be dealing a lot with loud guns that are going to make you show up. You want the silencers, but I also then suggested akimboed FMGs, which I know they're not viewed properly, but this is using the class that's going to get you a Moab, and you're going to run into people that do any other cheap tactic that they can find, and this is trying to even it out to give you the best chance. But regardless, it's still going to run into the problem of when you shoot them, you're going to show up on the radar. Now, the big point of the secondary is that it is a secondary. You are meant to use it in tight spots where you really need to get another gun, or maybe your primary runs out, or you don't have time to reload properly, you just need to switch. So that's what these are there for. And you're not going to be running around and using them all the time, and if you're fighting a big group, it's not really going to matter if they know where you are then, because they probably all know where you are anyways if they're all getting killed. So it is okay using the akimboed FMG secondaries. If you don't like that, I really would suggest the MP9, because just with a silencer it keeps to that stealth. You're not going to have to deal with people finding you as often, and this is really an awesome secondary. It's definitely something I would suggest. I love it. It does great damage. It's really accurate, and it's really overall a great gun. It's another great thing to add into your class if you aren't for akimbos. And it does change a little bit of the other things, because if you change that, you kind of eliminate the need for steady aim pro, and I would suggest marksman as the next best, because it really shows you an awful lot of things. You will be able to see people all over the place. If you aren't a big person for marksman, then I would suggest dead silence, because this one will also help. Now, if we just take this and leave our class as is, some of the things that I've had raised were, why use this over Specialist? Now, Specialist really improves all of your perks, obviously. You get everything. You get, I think, all the prod versions even, which is really awesome. But the biggest problem is that it doesn't seem to really increase your survivability. Also, for me, the third perk that you gain is Stalker Pro, which makes you move faster, and a lot of times I like to strafe into shots, and just for that subtle movement, and sometimes it throws me off a little bit to all of a sudden be moving faster, and I find I'm overshooting a little bit. So, it isn't my favorite thing. I think that's one of my biggest problems with Specialist. It kind of puts off my aim a little bit with that. So, that's one reason that you might enjoy this better. This also increases your survivability. I know people were talking about Blast Shield and why not ever use this. Well, Blast Shield is really awesome. It will help you survive, but I don't think it would add too much more survivability than a ballistic vest. The perk to this is that it will happen on every single grenade and you don't lose a ballistic vest then, but the ballistic vest will also save you from it, and the survivability based in gun fights is really going to help you. And one other thing that people were asking about was, why not use a third kill streak? And the reason that you're not going to use a third kill streak is because the next best is at 8, and this is going to almost cut your production of vests and UAVs in half, which is really not what you're going for. You want as many UAVs and ballistic vests as possible, so 2 is kind of optimized. So this is all the points that I really wanted to talk about. For lethal, I will say that I said that you're kind of free to use whatever you want, but I really would suggest either a Bouncing Betty or a Claymore, because if you're in risky spots and you're in high trafficked areas, it will be able to protect your back for at least a while until it gets blown up, so you can have a little bit more safety for a bit. And I personally notice it quite a bit. It helps me feel a little bit better when I'm standing there, and it really will save you a few times. So I do like this if you're going to try to hold down one area. So this is just about all I wanted to talk about. If you do have any more comments or questions that you'd like to ask, leave them down below in the comments section. If this video helped you at all, leave it a like, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.